I am in the joy of grief. I am in feeling the joy of the loss and the journey through this and what it's there to teach me, tell me, show me, do for me, help me do for myself. I am learning about resilience.
Feeling what's within is braver. Let emotions be your guide. Don't let other people's judgment turn your path aside. Don't quit before the mountain, just because the climb looks steep. Every step you almost fear.
Hey viewers, we're picking up the episode where we left off in the last episode and hope you enjoyed the continuation of this. So here we go.
But again, life has kind of done its thing, right? And it's shifted and it's morphed, and it's been such a beautiful journey to watch how that experience that I thought was one thing when she was younger, to see how it actually prepared her for something that I didn't see was coming. And it's such a cool transformative experience if you can just watch it and trust and know that, like, this is all unfolding. It may be that your kid getting cut from that elite team that he or she dreamed of for years is actually building the thick skin that they're going to need for something that you don't even know is coming down the road, but it's preparing them. And I think if you kind of look at life that way, in that roadmap, instead of like, this is our dream, and if they don't get this, we're a failure. And it's like, no. Every single step that they take, every fall, every rise, it's all meant for a bigger picture that I think is beautiful when you're able to look at life that way.
Yeah.
So hard when you fall. And it's like, I wanted that. My kid wanted that. They're crying. They're upset. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. Yeah. And that's where you get back to that razor thin line of, do they need a break? Do we persevere? And that's just, man, it's a judgment call from listening to your child and knowing your child and going back to your why.
Well, and I even look at my, I love to try different things, and when I did something, I wanted to be the best at it. I was an all-star soccer goalie and I thought I might do that. And then I kept getting injured. And then I had my jazz scholarship to Berklee College of Music and was being asked to travel in a band and, with a bunch of 40-year-olds, they wanted me to travel with them. And, and I looked at them like, no, and I wanted to be an orthodontist and that didn't work out. And I ended up being where I'm at. And all these things that I felt were losses, I couldn't see my future from a younger age to have faith and know that everything's going to work out. And I knew that what I put my energy into, whatever that was, I wanted to give it my best. Now, like I said, my motivations, I think, were still, and as you and I both run, are often from our own, I have to do this, I have to be this. And sometimes it became about external validation in ways. And again, how can you give your kids to help the ability to look through anything that feels like a loss or a pain to see it as an opportunity? As you pointed out, and I say a lot, opportunities versus obstacles, to help them to see that this is where life is leading you at this time. If your athlete has an injury that changes, or they just don't get to that next level of team they want to get to, life has something in store for you. And as a parent, if you're wrapped up in your kid's success and they have to succeed for you to feel good about you, life has something different in store for you. And it might be some tough lessons. It's not going to be if you get sucked into some of this stuff. It's often when you get sucked into some of this stuff. And then when you do, to give yourself grace when you catch it, to learn that, yes, you can get involved in this vicarious enjoyment of your kids, and not just enjoyment, but that rabid thirst for their success to make you or help you to feel better as a parent, or you to compare yourself. And I always tell people, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think for a lot of kids in these sports, for a lot of parents, for a lot of families, for the parents who love to, name drop and tell all the great things their kids are doing, to be someone who sees that objectively, you see it and, you kind of smile and go, okay. And, that's their journey, So I think it's easy to get in that judgment place and then even wonder about our kids. But our kids all have their unique journey.
Yeah. And I think if you can somehow, some way instill, and this is like the new thing that I've been trying for like literally a year to get through my kid's head. And it really clicked for me not that long ago, is that if you can look at a challenge as there is no bad, there's
Mhm.
no bad in this world, right? Stay with me for a moment because I know everyone's like, what are you talking about? If you can look at anything that happens to you as something that God delivered to you for purpose, for a reason, it immediately restructures it in your brain to be like, this isn't bad. This is an opportunity for me to grow. God gave this to me. Where
So
it gets
two things in there. Pause, what a gift, as you said.
pause, what a gift. Woo, so
And
long.
seeing that life happens for me, not to me.
Yes.
And those are two ways. So when you say pause, what a gift, then ask, how is might this be happening for me? And I might not be able to see that right
Mhm.
now from this place where I'm sitting because I am in the joy of grief. I am in feeling the joy of the loss and the journey through this and what it's there to teach me, tell me, show me, do for me, help me do for myself. I am learning about resilience. And that's again where we have to really, I think it behooves us. I don't want to say have to, that doesn't give us choice. It behooves us to step back and look at why I have then been gifted with this child with these unique gifts. Some I
Mhm.
may not like, some I may, not. And so I think in that looking at the things we love and don't love, okay, well, then those are often mirrors to us that we want to see.
Mhm.
Remember, hate pushes us away from things that we might need to, embrace. So it pushes us away from things that have
Yep.
caused us pain, are causing us pain, could cause us pain. If we're promoting our child's denial, for example, and we're telling them they are the greatest at the sport
Nope.
ever, what are we doing for them when life doesn't work out? So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean to be their worst critic either. It means to find balance and be objective. So that's those three questions. What did you do well? What could you have done better? And what are you going to do better in the future? Those are balanced questions to ask to go through that process.
Yeah, and I think you have to be really careful too. Like you said earlier, it can be conditional love. Like, oh my gosh, you booked the job, you're the best, you're the greatest.
Hmm.
So I think you have to be super careful of when that goes away.
Hmm.
My daughter's agent told me years ago he loved Skylar's trajectory of her career because it was very slow and steady and one step on top of the other, as opposed to she landed something and now she's on the cover of People and blah, blah, because that eventually goes away.
Hmm.
And when you're a child and that happens to you and then nobody cares about you anymore,
Yeah.
that fall from grace, as an adult, you can look at it and be like, that was an amazing ride. And now here I go. I gotta start over again. I'm back at the start line and here I go again because this is what I love to do. This is my profession. This is my craft. This is my art. As a child, it can feel like, why don't you want to take my picture anymore? Why am I not going to the events? Why am I not a big thing anymore? And
Mhm.
that's where we see a lot of child actors struggle with that mental health
Mhm.
because they rose so quickly and everyone just poured into them and then they
Right.
were disposed of. And that's
Yeah.
awful for that
Yeah.
human. That's awful. And that's so much to process as an adult, let alone a child. And if all of their self worth was poured into that thing and then
Mhm.
that thing is gone, they don't know who they are. And I mean, I
Yeah.
experienced this at a molecular level when I was a journalist. And I was at Channel 2 in Atlanta. I mean, it's a huge market. So anywhere I went, for the most part, it was like, "Hey, aren't you the girl from Channel 2?" And it's like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, hey, nice to meet you." And that was it. Okay. That's a local reporter in Atlanta. When I left news, the identity crisis was real because it was like, who am I? Like, I identified with that job for more than a decade.
Mhm.
And then it was like, well, now nobody's really going to know who I am. Nobody's going to know. That sounds almost ridiculous 15 years later, but at the time
Yeah.
it was an identity crisis. I had to sit and like who am I? Because I immediately, when I said, who am I? Oh, I'm a reporter. I'm a journalist. I'm with Channel 2. It
Right.
was my whole life.
Yeah.
So, and I was in my 30s when I had to go through that identity crisis. So being a child, it's so important for the parents to instill at a very young age. I'm so proud of how you showed up today. I'm so proud of the commitment that you showed. I am proud of you that you kept going even though you were tired. So you're complimenting them on things that have nothing to do with the sport, the activity, the art, the discipline of the thing. You're giving them compliments on who they are as a human being. And that was advice that was given to me long, long ago. And I'm so grateful for it because that's what I started complimenting my kids on. So that when she didn't get the 4 life-changing roles at Disney, it was like, you want to go to Universal? You want to go ride some rides? You want to go on Hollywood Boulevard? Come on, let's go have fun. And it turned into memories. And I'm so proud of you for coming out here and being so prepared and doing everything that you did. Did you feel like you gave it your best? Yeah. All right. Well, then let's go celebrate. We celebrated the losses as much as we celebrated the purpose.
So a question here that goes into it is, how do you know if your kid is okay and when they might not be okay? And do you cover that on your website too? On UCAN?
Such a good question. I mean, it really does come into those check-ins that I spoke about earlier. But when you see that your child, you're fighting them. Like, we would get an audition sometimes and I'm like, hey, come on, we got to go do this audition. And they're just, I don't want to do the audition. Do we have to do the? And then it's like, oh, wait, okay, why? Why do you not want to do it? And we would explore, what are you just tired? Do you just want to play your game? Are you on Roblox? Or do you not want to do this anymore? And there were times that, like, my youngest daughter was in it for the money. She was very clear, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like, she would
all about the Benjamins.
She was so funny. In her little voice, she would always be like, how much does it pay? And I was like, I mean, it's decent, like, it'll pay this much. And she's like, all right, I'll do it, and she'll get it. And I laugh about that, but at the same time, that was her why. She was like, I am doing this because I would like to build money in the bank, because from a very young age, she loved music. She knew she wanted to be in the field of medicine. She had a deep understanding that she needed to save money for college, grad school, or instruments that she wanted to buy. She had expensive interests in her life. So she was like, yeah, okay, let me keep doing that. For my oldest, it was, okay, where does this shoot? Is it going to take me away from other opportunities? Because, well, this one's like a low budget film. And what if I get another Disney opportunity or what, she was very strategic in her thinking. So those were the points where it was like, okay, why are you telling me no? Why are you fighting me? My youngest, we took a 2-year break because I could just, your kid, and I could just tell that she didn't want to do it anymore. And then we went back, and she came back to me and she's like, do you mind if we get back into it? And I was like, not a problem at all. And I communicated with her agents. I was open with them, and they were so supportive because I talked to them. But conversely, on guitar, she was 6 or 7 years old, and she's like, I don't want to do it anymore. And I was like, why don't you want to do it anymore? Because, I mean, it was like everything for her, and she was good. And she was like, I can't, it's hard. It's too hard. And I was like, now that's a difference, right? Because I'm like, you're backing away from the hard stuff. And I knew that mentally, there was nothing that was going to harm her from learning bar chords. She just had very little hands, and it was difficult for her. So I was like, I think you're backing away from a challenge because you think it's hard. This is growth. Whenever it gets hard, that's growth.
And that's sometimes hard and difficult as a parent, is to judge, when are you pushing your kids too hard? And that's why 70% of kids in sports end up dropping out in their teenage years, because it stops being fun. And you want your kids to learn resilience and you also want to help them to see, okay, if you're not going to do this, is there something else you'd like to do? And or if you see a pattern of
Yeah.
dropping out of many different things, I think that's something to look at. Do you have also a lot of kids, I think, who have a lot of pressure, they can hide their feelings of depression. They might mask feelings of anxiety. They might start to become more moody and or avoidant and or just pull away and spend more time by themselves. Now, a lot of these things are also kind of normal teenage behaviors too, and that's the hard thing is how do we tell the differences and all that? So
Yeah.
I think being yes, like you said, you know your kids well, so having a pulse on your kids throughout their childhood is good. Knowing that they're gonna go through some developmental challenges is good. Making sure and are you looking to see if they've been getting involved in drug and or alcohol and or, dopamine, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling
Yeah.
to avoid. And I think those are things to really make sure that as a parent, no matter what they're doing, even just in everyday kids, you can have kids who look like your everyday kid who are under so much pressure because they feel like everything they do they're underperforming at. So while yes, we've been talking about kind of these elite situations, I can tell you I didn't necessarily look like an elite kid, but I was still a perfectionist and felt miserable inside so much of the time. And
Mhm.
I felt I had to be elite at everything I did. And when I continued to feel like I underperformed, then that's where I beat myself up. And there might people who say, but you were good at everything you did. And to me, I wasn't. So extend this beyond just these unique populations we're talking about, and then look at your kids all along the spectrum. And it doesn't mean that they're not feeling some of the same things, some of the same
Yeah.
pressures in that process. And that's why I like talking about stuff like this, because yeah, we go from the minute to the masses. And we really
Yeah.
see we're
Eh,
all not too dissimilar. We're all very much alike in our ways. And I can here's one thing I hear a lot, Tara, is people will tell me their life stories and they'll say, I didn't have it this as bad as other people did. I shouldn't feel this way.
I never compare experiences. I tell my kids that all the time. Don't compare your experience. It was
Yeah.
relative to you. Yes.
Yeah, and that's the
Yes.
key is saying, your sadness is your sadness, it's not anybody else's. And you don't know if the depth of your sadness for whatever might be deeper than somebody who's been through more than you. So
It's
don't see yourself
so.
as weak or bad or wrong, in that this is your journey. And I
Mhm.
think that's what we're really trying to say here, even to the parent who's on the journey with the kid. Parent, this is your journey. What are these things coming for you to learn about you? For
Yeah.
you to grow from within you, like you have embraced in the times that you felt you got drunk by what your daughter was doing
Uh,
at times. And it's like,
Perfect word.
yeah.
It's intoxicating. It is. And
Mhm.
and let me just say this one final thing. To your point,
Mhm.
we live in a society where more is better. They have to be
Mhm.
involved in a million activities and they have to be the best at a million activities. And if they're not the best at a million activities, well, then they failed. And I think just creating that openness as a parent to allow your child to come to you and say, Mom, Dad, I don't want to do this anymore. I know
Mhm.
you have invested $50,000 in
Mhm.
my travel ball career or my soccer or gymnastics or acting, but I don't want to do this anymore. And I
Mhm.
think you have to ask yourself as the parent, are you allowing the space for your child to come and say that to you? Because are they aware that you are equally or more invested than they are? And if you
Mhm.
can have that open communication, if you can talk with them, my goodness, it's golden because let me tell you, that line of communication extends to when they're in college and high
Yes.
school, whatever it is that they'll come and they'll talk to you about anything. And
Yeah.
to me, that is so important. That's what I strive for every day. I
Yeah.
want my kids to talk to me. Just talk to me, tell me, let me help you because that's my role as a parent.
Well, and it extends to also their marriages, and how they raise their kids and potentially their jobs. And, I think that especially in jobs, there's that saying, people rise to their highest level of incompetence. And the issue,
Right.
though, is that people often have very good skill sets, and then they get promoted past those skill sets, and what often happens is they just get fired.
Mm,
Instead of saying, "We realize you've risen above a skill set, and that's okay. Do you wanna go back to where you were at and do that job again?" They might say, "Gladly, I'd love to do that job," but instead, they felt that if they didn't go for that next level, then they were a failure.
mm,
No, it's just you found your niche, you found your place you love, you found what you're where you feel you're meant to be, and
mm,
that's okay. It's not about, "Am I enough?" It's, you already are enough, and you already are on that path to learning, and sometimes the lessons we learn are moderation and to find balance, not to always have to seek the excess, and so much of our culture has continued to teach, go for it and have stuff, wealth and power and the grades and the performances and the adulation and who are all the names on the doors, and
yep.
little teaser to a song that that I created about, success is not a number. And that's a song that I created that's all about the different ways that we look for success. And you've probably by now, that's what you heard on the ride into this episode, and you'll hear it on the ride out too. But to me, it's so important to look at, how do we define success? And I think if we want to look at the theme of this whole podcast, is, how do we define our success in this world, in this universe, in this life? And it's within ourselves. It's within ourselves. And that's one thing that you've helped to bring to this, Tara, is really helping to see your journey on the outside world to find yourself on the inside. It's what we're bringing to our kids. And, one of my recent songs, Song to My Daughter, I wrote that was about why I raised her the way I raised her. And it was a really neat song to write. And, one of the things I put in there is, people might not have understood my open arms to her, because they felt, some people may feel like I coddled her in ways where I know my daughter and I know her needs. And some kids, they're good being pushed. There were times I pushed her, and there are times she just needs to have that home base and to know that she's okay, so that she can go out there and try again. And when she has difficulties, then we talk about, what is the universe trying to teach you? And for those that have a higher purpose, or a high, and I don't want to compare that, but people who have a purpose here to help with the masses, they might experience more challenges and difficulties. Those losses are not losses, like we said, they're opportunities. They're ways to help you to see how you handle the feelings of failure, stupid, unworthy, inadequate, unlovable, broken, guilt, shame, helpless, hopeless, overwhelmed. That's where we find success, is through those emotions and through the journeys of those, whether you're a parent, a child, an athlete, a musician, an actor, an actress. And I think, even as we've talked about some of these actors who have made it through, when they get through all their therapy and they're in their better places, what are they often talking about? Similar stuff, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So the goal is to get them not to have to go through years of therapy based on what they did in their childhood, right? Like,
Right.
be supportive in the best way that you possibly can, be that safe space for them to land no matter what. And I think parents in general, we all just want the best for our kids. And it's deciphering to make sure that you are doing that. Are you giving the best for your child? Is this the best thing for them? And to me, that always starts with a conversation,
Yeah.
always,
And
at
and
frequent.
and have the lens to be able to look back at yourself, because while we want to think all parents are that way, there are a number of them that really don't have that motivation. Their child is an extension of them. They have their issues, and that's where the parent really wants to learn to look at themselves. So, great discussion, Tara. As always, you bring such value. You've brought such value to this, and you will continue to bring value. I welcome you back at any time in the future. And again, it's been an absolute pleasure and joy to work with you this way, and I look forward to seeing you around the block.
Thank you so
So,
was such
Yeah.
an honor and such a joy in return. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be a very, very small part of this. I
Oh, you're
adore
more than a small part. No more, much more than a small part. So thank
No
you.
heart should be
So,
seen as less
until next
human.
time.
We all often stumble into grace, so I will listen deeper when emotions start to speak. I won't call them weakness when they hold wisdom underneath. Success does not have to hide them, it can learn from what's beneath. Success is not measured by a number, not a dollar sign or name, not the crowd that says they love me, not the spotlight, not the fame, not the lights, not the bread, not the status I have gained, not the image I keep polished, no, not the heights that I've attained. Success lies in the trying. When I'm scared that I might fall, it lies in choosing courage